Hey guys, how's it going today? So today's video is going to be on fundamentals, and more specifically, what is fundamental analysis? Now this is kind of in contrast to technical analysis, and you'll hear investors when they're talking about equities or stocks, equities and stocks are the same thing, it's just an interchangeable term, say, well, the fundamentals of the business or the technicals of the stock. So today we're going to be talking about the fundamentals. So as the term kind of entails, it's fundamental to the company. So it is basically related to the financials of the company, and how maybe outside factors can affect those financials. So that being said, some outside factors that could affect the fundamentals of the company could be macroeconomic factors. Macroeconomic meaning, the economy as a whole. For example, if we see you're in a stock that is an airline stock and they're dependent on fuel prices and the global fuel prices crash like we saw not too long ago here, that's going to have an effect on the company, and that's going to affect the fundamentals in the company, whether it's positively or negatively. So another thing with this is when we're talking about fundamentals of the company, we can look through the balance sheet, we can look through the income statement. These are all reports that are required by law, and I'm going to actually do a video on this for you guys in the future. So we could look through those and we could say, okay, well, the company, let's go through the financials here. Lockheed Martin, this is a company I recommend. I think is still going to do very well. I've owned this for quite a while. And we can look at, well, total revenues, $47 billion. Actually, this is something you should look at here. These numbers are in thousands, so that's on an annual basis. You can look at the gross profit, you can look at the income, and I'm going to go through all the stuff with you guys in a different video. But, what does that really mean? Because you could be looking at a different company that has a different stock price, that has a different amount of shares outstanding, and it can make more or less or whatever. So what makes this company a better buy than that company? I mean, that company might make a lot more money. Like, say, for example, Apple. It may make a lot more money than this company. But does that mean that it's a better buy than this company? Because Apple has a lot more shares outstanding. So its share price is lower, but this one has a lot less shares outstanding. So its share price is higher. So there's all these things. So there's got a way you got to look at it with the fundamentals. So there's metrics that are used in order to analyze fundamentals. And some of the most basic ones I might have already talked about, and I'm going to be making more in the future. A very vague one would be market cap. I did a video on that. That's, the share price times the number of shares outstanding, 95 billion. Beta is one. This is basically the risk in the market. Probably the most common one out there, and in my opinion, one of the most significant is the PE ratio, and I'm going to do a video on this. That's basically the stock price divided by the earnings per share. And earnings per share is essentially the earnings of the company divided by the number of shares outstanding. It's a little bit more complicated than that, but that's the basics of it, and that can give you a PE. So that can really give you an idea of taking into account the stock price, the number of shares outstanding, and the earnings. And then you can see that this one's got an earnings per share of 26. And I won't go into this in this video, but there's a general kind of rule of thumb where you can say, well, this is a pretty cheap company, this is a pretty expensive company. Or for example, Apple has a PE, last time I checked, around 17 or 18, don't quote me on that. So it's a lot more cheap than this company, even though this one's $333, whereas Apple's about $179, $180 right now. So actually, this is Yahoo Finance. So you can look through statistics and actually see some other metrics that are used in respect to fundamental analysis. So, I mean, we have market cap, like we talked about here. We have enterprise value. This is basically just the value of the whole business. Trailing PE. These are different types of PEs, looking forward or back. Trailing being looking back. Forward being looking forward, of course. This is the PE ratio, essentially taking in growth into account. Price to sales, price to book. So price to book being the stock price divided by the company's value in the books, and we won't get into that right now. The beta, like I said here, and these are all videos that I'll do in the future. And so these are fundamentals. These are fundamental things that you can look at. And what might change these fundamentals, you might ask yourself, is outside factors, inside factors could as well, right? The microeconomics could be the leadership, the CEO, the decisions he makes, what products they want to sell, the marketing strategy. Everything can affect the fundamentals of the company, right? So there's certain traders that trade on fundamentals, mainly value-based investors such as myself, Warren Buffett. They're very focused on value, right? Whereas technicals, you're kind of just looking at the charts and you're expecting it to do something based on the charts. But we won't get into that on this video because this one's about fundamentals. So that's just the basic gist of what fundamental analysis is. So you can do many different things. You can research, you could type in Google fundamental analysis. There's many metrics. You can look at growth. You can look at many different things.